Well, I'm having some friends coming over tonight. They're people I usually do watercolors with, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I decided to make a lasagna, and I'm taking it from my Pop It in the Toaster Oven cookbook recipe. However, I've had to make some variations because this recipe calls for chicken or turkey, and I'm going to substitute the chicken and turkey with zucchini. I've assembled all of the ingredients that you will need if you want to make this lasagna, and before I show you what I have or what you'll need, I'm going to preheat my toaster oven to 375 degrees. And this recipe is really fast. The one thing I like about it is that all of the ingredients go into the lasagna pan. They're layered, they're put in the oven, and then they're baked, and then they're done. It's very easy, and it's fascinating how everything just blends together. Okay, now here's the ingredients, and the recipe actually calls for 6 uncooked lasagna noodles broken in half. And that's what I have right here. I have actually a total of 12 lasagna noodle pieces ready to go. And here's a cup of chopped zucchini that I'm going to use in place of the 1/2 pound of turkey or chicken that is called for in this recipe. Here is the equivalent of a 15-ounce can or jar of marinara sauce. Actually, this is a homemade sauce that I made. And so I poured it into the cup, and it came to almost 2 cups. I also have a 1/2 cup of shredded mozzarella cheese, a 1/2 cup of shredded Parmesan cheese, and a 1/2 cup of part skim ricotta cheese. Now the recipe calls for a tablespoon of minced garlic, and I didn't have any garlic, so I'm just going to substitute with onion. And so this is a tablespoon of onion. The recipe also calls for either 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh basil and 2 tablespoons of chopped fresh oregano, or in this case I'm going to showcase my own herbs from my garden. I have them dried, and in this case you could use dried teaspoon of each instead. So I have a teaspoon of dried oregano from my garden and a teaspoon of dried basil from my garden. And then last but not least, I have my baking pan. You can use a smaller pan. I think in the recipe it says 8 by 8 by 2. This is a 9 by 9 by 2, but I think it'll work just fine either. And now we're going to start putting the ingredients. What I'm going to do is I'm going to layer half of the mozzarella noodles in the bottom of the pan, just like that. Then I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of water, and I'm going to add a 1/2 of everything else. So I'm going to add a 1/2 of the 16 or 15 ounce marinara sauce, half of the mozzarella, half of the zucchini, half of the onion, half of the ricotta, and I'm going to spread that around in a minute, half of the basil, half of the oregano, and then because I'm going to add salt to taste, I'm adding approximately a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then I'll do that again. So I'll spread the ricotta around a little bit. So now I have another layer of noodles. I've used up all the rest of the lasagna noodles. There's the rest of the tomato sauce. There's the rest of the zucchini. rest of the grated mozzarella, the rest of the ricotta, and I will spread that around in a minute. The rest of the onion, and the rest of the basil and oregano. And then I'm going to put in another half teaspoon of salt to my taste. Okay, I'm going to cover this with aluminum foil. The toaster oven is up to temperature 375. So I'm putting the pan in, and I'm going to bake this for 50 minutes or until the noodles are tender. The lasagna's done. I took the aluminum foil cover off, and the noodles are nice and tender. So I'm just going to sprinkle the top now with the Parmesan cheese. I'm going to put the lasagna back in. I've sprinkled it with cheese. The oven is still at 375, and it's going to bake in there uncovered for about 10 minutes or until it's nice and brown. The lasagna was in for 10 minutes. You can see the cheese browned up nicely. Looks absolutely delicious. So you can see how beautifully this lasagna comes out. Maybe I'll just have a little taste. It's so delicious, and what I like most is it really didn't take a long time to assemble. Just put everything in layers, stuck it in the oven, and in no time at all, we have a beautiful lasagna. Give this a try.